Mike and brother Mitch acquired the family business, aptly named the Family Plumber, from their dad. Plumbing wasn't always in the cards.
Growing up, I aspired to be at least a hardworking individual. I didn't think that plumbing was going to be the industry that I wanted to get into personally.
And working with family isn't always yin and yang, but Mike and Mitch have a great chemistry for success. Listen in. Second generation Southern California plumbing business. Can you tell me how did you get into this?
Well, it's definitely been a journey for sure. It's been a legacy is what I like to call it. You know, my father actually started our company here in Orange County, California, the Family Plumber, and it truly is family to us. Both my brother and I work together to
Did
help.
your dad originally name it the Family Plumber?
So actually the company started off as Aquatech Plumbing, and because of some copyright issues with another plumbing business, not locally, but just nationally, he was forced to change that name, and the Family Plumber just came to him one night and he's like, you know what, let me see if this is first available. And when he did see that, he was like, you know what, this just fits what we're trying to accomplish here. And he incorporated in 1990, but the business has actually been alive for a little over 39 years. So. Well,
it's interesting too. It's called the Family Plumber. Now this is the second generation of family. So it's kind of a double meaning. You know, you can take that from a marketing perspective to mean like, I'm your friendly neighborhood family plumber. And now you and your brother are running this business now, second generation. I imagine growing up the son of a plumber, did you aspire to always be a plumber and do a succession plan on the business, or what? You know, what was that like growing up in Southern California?
Yeah. So, I mean, growing up, I aspired to be at least a hardworking individual. I didn't think that plumbing was going to be the industry that I wanted to get into personally. Really trying to focus on school, and I thought I was actually going to get into automotive technologies. So it was kind of a transition from auto technologies into plumbing when my father offered to allow me to come and work for the company. So
auto technologies, like did you decide that career path because, hey, you're a car guy, or you had a fascination with just automotive technology? Like, what originally made you go that way and then pivot?
Yeah. So, it was actually, I'll never forget, it was my high school counselor. You have those general sessions like every semester where they sit you down and they say, okay, what do you want to do? You know, how do you feel about this career path? How do you feel about this? This is what's going to be set up for you. You want to go to this college. And anyway, so we discussed different career paths. And I realized that, you know what, auto technology seemed at the time one of those interesting things that I had never done before. I had taken one auto mechanics class that they offered in high school back when they offered trade training in high school. And I felt it was really interesting. I think it combined computer technologies at the time where they were coming out with all sorts of new.
What year is this?
Yeah, this is 2006. So
early 2000s.
Yeah. So
almost 20 years ago now is the scary part.
It's crazy. Yeah, I know. And so I'm looking at, the different technologies coming out at that time. This term called Bluetooth was being tossed around, and the capabilities of Bluetooth. And I was thinking, well, the car industry, like I love to tinker, right? I'm a tinkerer. So I figured the auto industry would be where I'd really kind of gain some ground and plant some roots, which I did. It actually led me to move out of Southern California for a few years. I lived in Boston on the East Coast for just short of 4 years. So
talk about culture shock. Southern California to Boston are definitely two different worlds.
Oh, definitely. And, honestly, living on the East Coast really kind of opened my eyes to climate, weather, and what plumbers in general work in on the East Coast. And so if a East Coast plumber comes to me and says, you know what, you just don't understand, you know what, you're right. I don't understand. So.
That's an interesting thing that I've never really thought about it from the plumbing side of it. I think about it from the septic pumping side of it all the time, because septic pumping is very cyclical, especially we live in northern Wisconsin. So septic pumping, you have a season for septic pumping. It's basically spring, summer, a little bit of fall, and then it ends. Plumbers work year round. It's just a matter of what climate are you working in. And the SoCal climate is certainly different than the Boston climate. But anyway, I digress. You're out in Boston. I believe you were working for Toyota at the time. Is there anything you learned while you were at Toyota that, you still are grateful for that time at Toyota, or was it pretty much just a total, I picked the wrong career path?
No, I mean, honestly, what it really trained me to emphasize or really focus on is the customer service side of things. I do have to say, beyond some internal issues within Toyota, the biggest thing that was actually taught to me was that frontline experience from the customer's perspective. And so I took different processes that they have regarding surveys, follow-up surveys, frontline welcome calls or happy calls, and kind of combined a little bit of the two. When I came back to the plumbing industry, they do actually correlate pretty well together. And I do have to say that was one of the big takeaways that I took from that industry, was that customer experience side of things when it came.
So you definitely gained some real world experience, even though you kind of recognized somewhat early on that it wasn't going to be your career. So what does that look like? You're at Toyota, do you decide you want to shift gears? Does your dad reach out and say, hey, Mike, let's shift gears? What does that look like?
Yeah. So, well, interesting enough, I had actually done a stint with my father working with the company, and I have to tell you, I've talked about this before, but when it comes to succession plans, they're not easy. Whether it's a partner that you're friends with, that you're trying to create a business with, but I think actually the hardest is between family, because there's this interpersonality, issue where you have your father that's, he's your father. You're supposed to respect your father. So you're not supposed to question your father. And so when you get into the negotiation side of a succession deal, that's where questions come up as to, am I allowed to say this to my dad? Am I allowed to contradict what he just told me? So
can I interrupt you for just a second? Because you also mentioned that you own this with your brother. Are there other family members as well? And did that create any friction or?
No. And actually, fortunately, I mean, me and my brother, we work hand in hand together. We pretty much, I always joke, we talk with our eyes. So we could be sitting in a room and have a complete conversation and it's completely quiet. So, but no, it's just me and my brother. And we tried to rope in my sister, but she actually decided to move to Idaho. So it's just us for the time being.
So you and your brother, are you and your brother simultaneously talking to your father then about taking over the business then? And this is when, the early 2000s still?
Yeah. So the early 2000s was Toyota. And then after Toyota, my father was like, you know what, we ended up having a little bit of a blowout on our first go around. So I ended up leaving, and that's when I left for Boston. When I came back was when me and my father kind of negotiated a deal. He was ready to get out. He was ready to retire, as most, plumbers, they start to get in their 60s, and that's like, you know what, I can't keep turning wrenches. So the opportunity came in his lap to at least offer me the position to come back to the company with the agreement that we were going to keep the volume down, meaning like, not try to be at each other's throats all the time. And so he really asked me to come back. And at the time I felt it was a great opportunity. I mean, the trades are not going anywhere. You can't subsidize them with robots, at least for right now. And so I figured, you know what, this is a great stable platform for me to come back to California and start this, try this again. So I actually came back solo to the company and started the succession plan. My brother was kind of dropped into it a little bit later. He was working up in Northern California and decided to move back down to SoCal. So we the business is not easy as one person, but you have two people behind the curtains. It definitely helps for sure. So
how big was the business when you first got back into it? Was it just basically you and your dad?
Yeah, so it was me and my dad, two of his long-term employees at the time, and long-term meaning they were over a couple of years. So it was definitely a smaller business. We had my stepmother actually working in the front office, typical father mother.
So there's 4 or 5 of you. How long does your dad hang on then? And I guess for what reason? Was he just making sure, like, hey, you got this type thing? Or, what was his reason for hanging around?
Time is running out. Are you registered for North America's premier wastewater event? The Wet Show is just around the corner, happening February 17th to the 20th in Indianapolis. Don't miss your chance to explore an expansive expo hall, discover the latest products and services, network with industry peers, and attend accredited sessions for continuing education hours. Register now before it's too late at wetshow.com. That's www.ettshow.com. At Service Titan, we know running a contracting business is hard work. With our all-in-one solution for the trades, managing your business needs from scheduling to invoicing is easier than ever. Learn how Service Titan gives you the tools to keep your business running smoothly. Visit servicetitan.com. Once again, that's servicetitan.com.
Well, I mean, secession plans, so you can structure different types of secession plans. And I think what fit us the most was a slow, gradual transition. Because although I knew the customer service side of things, I really needed to work on the financial. So understanding, what's risky, what's not, when it comes to buying equipment, buying trucks, things like that. So I really leaned on him for a few years on getting up to speed on at least how the industry, what the progressive nature of the industry is. I mean, there's timetables to everything, especially in our industry. You have slow periods. You'd expect it around tax season, like little nuggets like that. So
it's presidential elections, taxes.
Yeah.
So what does this transaction look like? Is it an actual transaction, or is your dad just basically gifting it to you? I mean, or did you have to figure out, owner financing? Did you go to a bank?
Yeah, so it's definitely a transaction for sure. And it was a heated one, to say the least. Not getting into specifics, really what we tried to accomplish was we did the classic meet in the middle on the total price of the company. And through a series of financial, transactions, we were able to at least get the secession started. And then there was what's called sweat equity buyout procedure that was in place after the initial payment was made. So that in total took about 5 years. So it wasn't like it was a quick process. So it's basically simply a sweat equity buyout. So
okay. Yeah. So I mean, right off the bat, your dad's working with you. He eventually phases himself out. When does your brother come into the picture?
Pretty much a few years after that. And I have to say, it was quite unexpected. I mean, he was actually up in Northern California working, as a manager at a large chain of restaurants and really doing very well. But unfortunately, COVID hit obviously the restaurant industry and the hospitality industry. He decided that, San Francisco is where he was specifically, that wasn't really, booming at that time. So he actually came back during COVID. Which was a few years or so after we started the secession plan. So he came in a little bit late to the game, but we incorporated him into the secession plan because at that point we're a few years into it. I was able to grow it, but I realized, like I can't do this by myself. There's a lot of
growing pains. Growing pains there. Like when you say you were able to grow it, are you talking like, is it doubling? Is it quadrupling? Or is it just solid straight growth, 10%, 20% a year type thing?
Yeah. I mean, we were doubling. We were basically growing vans at the same rate every single year. So doubling the first 2 years. And then I really realized that process was hard to manage. So inventory specifically, also, some of the bill pay stuff too, as you start to scale.
Cash flow type deal, or are you just saying?
Just in general, like keeping up, you would be surprised how much you lose in just material loss based off wholesalers that, do make mistakes, which is totally understandable. But when they're making mistakes on invoices, we're eating the cost if we don't catch those mistakes. So we were losing a lot on the material side of things. So that was definitely one of those things that I'm not an inventory specialist. However, my brother being in the restaurant management industry, I mean, he was turning over inventory when it came to food, everything from food up to, drinks, alcohol, that sort of stuff. So he really had a better mindset than I did on inventory.
Ended up being a perfect fit. It sounds like, honestly, if one of your biggest problems as, I'm going to say a young business owner, only because you had kind of come into this and it's only a few years at this point, was this inventory management type element, and your brother can come in and handle that. Now you've got, a better profit margin right off the bat. You're growing. I know a lot of business owners I talk to, their number one problem is always kind of cash flow or financing or figuring out how to grow the business without putting themselves in crazy debt, and it sounds like maybe that all helped.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely helped. And also say, I mean, hiring the right people, you really need to find a balance right at the beginning. You really have to be crucial that you're hiring the right people that aren't going to reduce your exposure. I'll say it like that. So, whether it's an office staff person, you want to make sure that they're optimizing your booking calls, right away from pretty much day one, because you are a smaller outfit. You can't absorb the amount of loss from an underperforming employee. So making sure you hire right, especially at that initial stage, is crucial as well, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And, part of the interesting thing about the trades is I think earlier in the podcast, you said they're not going anywhere, and they're definitely not. In fact, in my opinion, there's been such a resurgence in the trades, people realizing like a 4-year degree is sometimes just 4 years of money wasted, especially when you can come into the trades now and make a decent wage as long as you're willing to work a little bit harder. But how did you find those right people? It's easy. Hire slow, fire fast is something someone said in a podcast I just did a couple of weeks ago. But that's easier said than done. I mean, I guess I'd rather just feel better about who I'm hiring right off the bat. And how are you finding those right people? I mean, you're in a good population base.
Yeah, no, for sure. And actually the timing of it all too. So if you think back to COVID, right? So COVID really hit, like I mentioned before, it hit the hospitality industry. Specifically, we had almost the golden ticket here in Southern California. We have what's called Disneyland around us, right? And so Disneyland actually initially laid off when COVID hit. They laid off a little over 3,500 employees that live in our area of Orange County. So when that happened, I had, a stack of resumes ready to rock and roll on people that are really good frontline workers. I mean, just happy as could be. They understand hospitality. And I think you can train plumbing. What you really can't train is that initial engagement with a customer. So we were fortunate enough to actually have a couple of people apply with us at that point, and we did hire a few. So that was a huge, tremendous help. Beyond that, though, you're looking for traditional ways. Traditional ways would be like ZipRecruiter, Indeed, those sorts of things, which have worked. But now I have seen a resurgency, at least in social media, as being a great platform for recruitment. If you want to make sure that your company is actually wholeheartedly showcasing happy individuals within your organization, because let's be honest, most technicians that are applying at your company have researched your company more so than probably what your company looks like online. So it's important that those social media channels are kept.
Well, and they research it only from the forward-facing element of what your company is. They're going to look at the first top 10 Google results, and you better hope they're promising or flattering,
Absolutely.
There's a lot of different ways to compensate employees in the plumbing industry. Have you found that one certain thing works better than anything else, or have you always kind of just stayed the course? Or is that always adapting? What do you do that way?
Yeah, so we've gone through a couple really unfortunately, you're talking to somebody that lives in California, and it's a legislative nightmare here in California to try to, really. Our industry is solely commission based in most states, and here in California, if you are a working technician, technically you can't earn commissions, on the work that you perform. So
I did not know that.
Yeah. So there's a dynamic there that, we have to work around as business owners here in California, which is perfectly fine because ultimately the legislation was dropped here in California to benefit the working individual. And so the workaround with that is that we've come up with compensation packages that are considered blended bonuses, and we work off a team system. So we actually utilize a project manager who's a first frontline worker that goes in and actually evaluates jobs. He's the professional, right? He's been in the industry for over 10 years. Then we subsequently pass that job on to an installer, and the installer is under that project manager's team is responsible for installing the equipment and or performing the repairs that the project manager actually estimated for. And then below that, we have our apprentices that obviously are in training to become installers and then eventually project managers.
So your project manager is an estimator. So I think you answered my next question is you're not using any type of like flat rate pricing structure. You're actually going in, estimating, doing more of a time and materials, but on an estimate type business.
Well, no, so we are flat rate. Yeah, nobody's time and material, but we are flat rate. The initial thing though is that we found what works at least here is we've gone through 3 different renditions of pay structures, titles, everything within our organization. The team system worked really, really well for us because that project manager is delivering the flat rate message to the customer in an effective manner, and he's also the knowledgeable technician, the journeyman licensed technician that knows how to plan the entire project out properly. What I see some shortcomings from other plumbing companies is that they send a salesperson out. Well, the salesperson's great at talking to the customer, right? But where they lack in efficiency is actually on the technical side of things. So you can lose a lot, even though you're making a sale, you could lose a lot if your installer goes there and he's like, my project manager or my sales manager told me to do all of this work, but I don't even know where to start. He doesn't even know where to start. He just said repipe.
So your manager is essentially scripting the job and knows the right way to do it.
Yeah, and that works hand in hand once again with that inventory process. Is that the project manager who has the experience, that journeyman licensed plumber, he knows the material pretty much to the exact T that's needed on that specific job, so that we're not having a technician or installer go out and just grab a bundle of fittings, and take it to the job site and then end up bringing a bunch back. And then it turns into overstock.com. And I think everybody in the plumbing industry knows what that looks like. So
do you have a specific segment you concentrate on in the plumbing sector? Are you new construction? Are you remodels? Are you maintenance? Are you Mr. Fix-It? All the above?
Yeah, so we're water, sewer, gas, residential, and what we deem as light commercial, but we are dipping our foot into a little bit larger commercial jobs, and so that's really been our niche, is really residential service and repair. So that's truly where we gain a lot of traction in our community. That's the way my father set it up, and honestly, the way our processes are, even though it's a lot more management as far as margin, it's very margin based. And when I say margin, it means you really have to watch your costs because of the overwhelming sense of overutilizing like fittings and things like that. But service and repair, residential service and repair has really been our niche market.
So how are you marketing yourself? Are you Google ads, Facebook ads, word of mouth, all the above?
Yeah, I mean, preferably word of mouth is always great. That's a preferred method of marketing. In any case, you'll find that there's different sites here that work better, like in California, as opposed to maybe on the East Coast or in other states. For us specifically, we found that and I may be chastised for saying this, but Yelp has always been a really good influx of immediate customers. So if we're increasing our Yelp revenue, I tend to see a jump or a spike in call volume. And then besides that, Google LSA is really where the preferred, ad spend dollars are going to. Local service ads are very pinpoint, and we can really kind of throw a dart at a map and say, look, these are the zip codes that we actually want to hit, and these are the homes. More specifically, these are the homes that we know are going to create the highest value, or we just know these homes. These homes, they have sewer issues. We know that they do. So we're going to hit this area specifically with sewer specials, or anything of that sort. So
using Google's local service ads is smart when you can do it. The only hiccup sometimes can be Google is there to take your money. I mean, they're always going to suggest ways for you to spend more, even if you're coming right in precise on a zip code, things like that. I mean, you can start to drop thousands of dollars a day if you wanted to, especially when you're talking about, you guys are Los Angeles Metro, is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Have you hired a professional to help you with that? Are you shooting from the hip and doing it yourself? What does that look like?
Yeah. So I would say, I mean, we've gone through a couple companies already, and I've never heard of a plumbing business owner that hasn't gone through as what they term as SEO companies. They're no longer SEO companies, but SEO companies that would help you with direct marketing, your website and stuff like that. We've gone through a couple. We've always reverted back to either myself or my brother working on those sorts of marketing campaigns. More recently, we've actually turned to ServiceTitan. And our CSR provider. And I found that ServiceTitan through Marketing Pro has been a huge benefit to us, because it's not only frontline marketing, but it's also, you don't realize how many customers, when you leave the doorstep, how many you could potentially lose by not just continually following up with them. So I think that's a huge critical factor that most business owners forget about. They just want to get through the front door. But what they realize is once they leave, they need that customer to call them back. And so
those who don't know, ServiceTitan is the software you're using for probably planning, scheduling, and follow-up of all your customers. It's basically your customer database. Is that right?
Correct. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And ServiceTitan also has a marketing element to you that's automating follow-up?
For the most part. So you have two different aspects of it. We still try to put a personal touch on things. So we'll do what's called happy calls the next day, making sure the client, experienced a 5-star service experience at their residence. But ServiceTitan does automate the survey part of things. So a survey will be delivered to a customer within 24 hours after their service has been complete. And if, let's say, they've already received service within 6 months, maybe they won't receive another survey, because you don't want to just continually send surveys out. So they'll receive a survey. It's a very simple 1 to 5-star survey, explaining who their technician was, a little bit of a background, and also a video of a thank you video, including myself and my brother personally making a video thanking them for choosing us. And so,
does your brother have a name, since we just keep calling him your brother?
I'm sorry, Mitch. I know.
We're sorry, Mitch.
No. He's good, man. He's honestly, I always refer to my brother as, the shoulder, the talking shoulders, right? So you have the angel and the devil. The angel's telling you, oh, don't do that, and the devil's telling you, oh, it's okay. Well, I tend to lean on the side of like, oh, let's go big and fantastic, and this is going to be, massive. We need to do this. He's like,
that's probably part of the reason for your success. I mean, your brother, it sounds like you guys have the exact opposite skill sets. The yin and yang of this whole company is your brother can come in and do inventory and you don't like inventory. You're saying, let's put the pedal down. Your brother's saying, well, maybe we should hit the brakes. I think maybe that sounds like there's just some good compatibility there between you and Mitch.
Yeah, it is for sure. I mean, he's definitely he's called me out on the carpet before, and I think what's great is that we both recognize if we are overstepping boundaries, and we understand when we're wrong. And I think that's very important as a business owner. You have to step back and say you don't know everything, and so we both feed off that energy. And he's been right, I've been right. He's been wrong, I've been wrong. So it is a good yin and yang. I got to start using that actually.
Are you continuing to see growth? Is there a spot where you just want to say this is as big as we want to be? What does the future look like?
Yeah, so for us, we're continuing to see growth internally. We actually, this year was a little bit slower of growth than we have in previous years. We grew about 20%, which is, I would say, considered average, higher than average or medium. I think where we're really kind of looking towards is we've gained a significant stronghold in our community. A lot of plumbing business owners, at least locally, that are I hate to use the term older, but they are older. They're looking to retire like my dad did about 10 years ago. And so I found myself as I network with other local business owners that have been around for 30 plus years, they're asking me, hey, would you consider buying our business?
I was just wondering, that growth through acquisition type thing.
Yeah. So, so we've explored a couple opportunities, and the hope is actually in 2025 that we'll be acquiring at least one or two other companies here locally. That the acquisition side of things, a lot of people think, oh, well, you're buying it like a boat. You really have to evaluate the undercarriage. I mean, you have to dissect the company and really understand whether or not it's a revenue producing company, or maybe it's a diamond in the rough. It may just be the name of the company just stands out. And so I'm really focused and hell-bent this year to try to acquire at least 1 or 2 companies.
Will these be your first acquisitions, or have you already acquired other companies?
So we've done acquisitions on phone numbers, which is a whole nother ballpark or a whole nother division, where basically a company that's selling or ready to sell will sell off what they deem as 800 numbers or specific campaign numbers. So we've purchased campaign numbers before. Never have we purchased a whole business outright. So this will be a first for us. Yeah.
What are you looking, if you're looking at these acquisitions, what is typically, are those owner finance deals, or are you going out and seeking financing for those, or you haven't crossed that bridge?
So we have crossed that bridge. We've gotten very close to working a final deal. At least last year we did, and we were looking for internal financing. You'll find there's a lot of leeway with the SBA, the Small Business Administration, that they can actually finance some of these deals. I'll give a little insight too on acquisitions that, not just the SBA, but companies like Live Oak Bank, which is on the East Coast, specialize in succession financing. So if you Google search succession financing, whether it's, the auto industry or anything, it correlates to plumbing as well. Specifically, that bank is very, very good at putting together plumbing acquisition deals. So collateral.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say, collateral wise, you get concerned about, you have to put your house up, or you have to refinance and do all this stuff. Some of the banks right now are more than willing to loan out money. The only prerequisite is that they really just need financial statements on a quarterly basis.
I guess that was kind of the root of where my question was coming on, like succession financing. You can't just be buying somebody's job. I'm assuming there has to be an actual business element here, some certain profit margin, revenue number. If I think back to your dad, it was just him and a couple of other people, at that point, I don't want to make this sound negative, but was there really even a business there, or was this your dad's profession and he passed it off? It sounds like now you've definitely grown it into a business where there's definitive value there and something on the books that can be sold. But I think a lot of the smaller plumbers, and maybe this doesn't pertain to Southern California as much as it does as your rural areas, a plumber might just be 1 or 2 people, and they're really just creating their own living. And that's very hard to sell in my experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I agree with you on that. The company back when, my father, Mike Sr., actually owned it and grew it to where it was is, if he got hurt one day, let's just say he was walking down the street, tripped, fell, broke his leg, he would not create an income from that point forward. It was unreliable, unsustainable. So yes, in those beginning stages, very, very crucial that you have a good cash flow, you have a good financing structure. When it comes to succession, financing is huge, but you really lean on all factors. Like at the beginning stage, like you get hurt, you're done. That's it.
So, I mean, you and Mitch are both still relatively young, but are you already building the business with a plan in mind of succession to someone within the family, or eventually you're going to cash out and sell, or you're not to that point yet? You're just growing it and having fun.
We talk about it. Honestly, what's fun for us is genuinely seeing our employees be successful in life. And we have a lot of long-term employees, and but the atmosphere that we've created here is a culture of respect, right? So I don't think we were voted Contractor of the Year by Contractor Magazine in 2023. And the biggest reasons for that was our company culture. And I stand by it that, we value our employees. We really, we dive in deep, we're always there for them. I wouldn't say that we've done this anytime recently, but we've gone out and made purchases like buying cars for our employees if need be, and just going above and beyond what the norms are. So it's very important to make sure that your team is well supported. We've been very successful in that. I think the future for us is it's really hard to say that we would sell. But in the event we did, I think it would be a structure where we would make sure that we stayed on for an extended period of time so that the transition was easy and that our employees could feel like it wasn't just all of a sudden a light switch got flipped on, so. But tentatively right now, we're enjoying what we're doing. We're enjoying the company. We're enjoying our employees. We're enjoying the successes of our employees. So it's been great.
If you'd like to learn more about the Family Plumber, Mike and brother Mitch were featured in the February 2024 issue of Cleaner Magazine. And Mike regularly participates in industry podcasts. Thank you for listening to the Cleaner, Plumber, and Municipal Sewer and Water podcast series. Please remember to subscribe and like this podcast to keep more great content coming.